Okay, so recap. First week we touched on self-care. Second week we touched on emotional regulation. We must change our perspective on how we view emotions if we want to change how we respond to them. And I touched on emotions are like warning signs in a car, a garden, and exercise. So for those of you, I'm sorry if you've already been to this class, this is kind of a little bit of a review, but if you haven't, we touched on emotions. As moms or as women, we can feel like they are negative. Like if we feel angry immediately, like something's wrong with us or something. But emotions are given to us by God. And I made these examples of warning signs in a car. If we have a vehicle and there's some signs that are popping up, we're not going to go ahead and throw away the whole car and call it damaged. We're going to say, oh man, there's an oil pressure light, or there's a, low gas, or, this fluid needs to be changed, or that. And it kind of gives us a heads up. But if we continue to neglect those warning signs, that creates a lot more issues with the vehicle, which in turn can damage it. The other example was a garden. Our emotions need to be tended to. There's seasons where we plow and we sow and we reap. And have any of you ladies gardened before or done anything like that? If you're in the screen, you could just, yeah. I just recently started gardening, and it's like, if I don't tend to it daily and neglect it in any way, those weeds come up so thick, because at first when they pop up, they're really light and, I can just pull them up with my hands. But if I neglect it for weeks or longer, then it's like almost pulling out like a bush. Like it takes a lot of effort, a lot of muscle. So our emotions are like a garden where we need to pull out these weeds, which in this reference is bitterness, fear, lies, anger, anything that's just destroying the fruit that God has given us to feast on. A garden also has boundaries. There's a fence, to not let outside predators in. So outside lies, outside accusations. In the Bible, in Proverbs 4:23, it says, above all, guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. And the third example of emotions, we talked about it being like an exercise. They're like muscles. So they grow stronger or weaker based on how we use them and how we care for them. So if you want to be like a patient mom, specifically, maybe not be like as angry or as reactive, that's a muscle that you have to work out and that you have to cultivate. And it's not going to happen overnight. So when you're like, I don't want to be reactive, that's something that you continuously have those moments of weakness where you get to practice and practice and practice. And it feels like you're always failing. And that's kind of the goal, is that you come to a place where you're like, wow, I've grown stronger and now I'm more patient or more sweet with my words, or whatever it is that you're looking for.
Sucks.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. And I think a lot of women will give up at this point because it's too hard, I hear that a lot when I talk with moms, like parenting is too hard, or disciplining toddlers are too hard, tantrums are too hard. Like, sleep training's too hard. But for me, my mindset is all of this is hard, but you get to choose your hard,
Right.
Like,
but then you look at the end of perspective. Well, that's what I'm looking at this point. The end perspective. Do I want to continue to say this is going to be hard and make it a little bit easier with me, continue those challenges? But in the moment of those difficult moments, it definitely gets overwhelming. You want to just throw your head up and give up.
Yes, for sure. And especially like if you're a Christian, those moments of weakness are so good to like just humble you and say, Lord, I am so weak and I need help.
Right, and that's when He shines that light on, like, girl, I'm in here this whole time.
Yes, because a lot of those emotions, like, we really need God. We need God for the most basic of things, and I think sometimes when we try to do it by ourselves, that's when we really just like wear ourselves out, trying to do it by ourselves without Him.
Right.
And then so when we talked about emotional regulation, I brought in how there's a battle for our souls, that we're always in a war between light and darkness, and that the kingdom of God is light. Jesus came as light in the world to rescue us from this darkness. And then we talked about just emotional rhythms. And I have this was a very loaded class. I think this was the one that I was like, I'm sorry, this was a lot. But there's a bunch of questions of how you can grow emotionally, and then how to overcome those emotions of triggers and overcoming those. So that's kind of a whole another day. So that was the second class that we touched on. And I also touched on a little bit about motherhood as ministry and the importance of speaking life over your child, understanding who you are as a mom and where you're going. And this is kind of what you just touched on, like thinking about the end goal in mind. You know, it's in Proverbs 14:1, it says, "A wise woman builds her home, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands." So when you think of like building a home, like, you know, we talked about with everything else, gardens and, muscles, like building doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And so motherhood takes time. And letting our children grow up in the ways of God and in a healthy way takes time. So last week we talked about parenting and how parenting can be a joy. And I touched on the book Love and Logic, and I sent that your way this morning. Sorry it took me so long to get it to you. We've been working on our garden all week, so I've been like in the hot sun, getting our garden bed, so I have not had like much computer or house time. But we touched on the 4 principles of love and logic. And so one of them is building self-concept, just basically how they see themselves. 2, sharing control. Control is like love. The more we give away, the more we get in return. And that's what we touched on, like giving them choices. The 3rd one was offering empathy and then consequences. And then the 4th one's sharing the thinking. And we talked about how every problem needs to have an owner. And so a lot of your kids' behaviors, the mom specifically, will take their problem and make it theirs and think harder and work harder than the child. And that's not giving them a lifelong gift of thinking for themselves. So we touched on how it's important to set the limit once and to follow through. Giving them an advantage in life by teaching them the first time. So kind of going back to you, Jazzy, a little bit, you'll notice when you're, and I'm going to kind of refer to you if that's okay, because I think all of us probably have little children that do very similar things. But since you asked, I'm going to kind of refer it to you, but really every other woman watching, like, take it for your own situation. But the importance is that we need to set the limit once and we need to follow through. So what we often do as moms, especially because we are more wordy, we're more emotional, we're more like out of the like benefit of the doubt. Like maybe they didn't hear me, maybe they didn't understand, maybe I need to repeat it in a different way. But rarely in real life do consequences happen with that many warnings. Like if I'm speeding on the highway and I get pulled over, the police officer's not asking me, hey, by the way, did you know what the speed limit was? Hey, just a reminder, next time when he's saying, hey, did you know what the speed limit is? Okay, 45, here's your ticket. You were going 65, So very rarely is it happening with so many repeated warnings. So don't waste breath on words, talking about it, lecturing it, warning. Simply take actions and start implementing more actions. And the key with parenting, a lot of this, especially with littles and teens too, I hear, is not to give in to anger. You want to show your child that handling him is a breeze. Like, you're not going to be moved, you're not going to be stressed out, red face. Like, you're wanting to let them know, you're sending this message of, I love you, you're not too difficult to handle. Otherwise you'll see these kids who are just constantly acting out for attention. And they're really, what their heart cry is does anybody see me? Am I really loved? Can someone help me? And so as parents, like you get to have them, like what I talked about, building that self-concept. You as a mom have authority to teach them what that looks like. And we'll go through that in just a minute. This kind of training needs to begin at home. A lot of times I think moms especially will want their kids to be trained by teachers or by like Sunday school teachers or somebody else. But you as the mom have been given everything you need by God to parent your children at home. And then when you go out in public, that's a really great way to see what you need to continue working on at home. So like for me, my kids, they act great at home, most of the time. And then we'll go to a restaurant and then I'll see them acting up. So in my head, I'm not like, oh no, they're just tired and shift the blame or like excuse their behavior. What I say to myself is, all right, my kid has gotten a little bit loose at the dinner table. I need to make sure I'm practicing that at home. So then the next time I'm at home and I'm seeing my kid acting out, I'm like, oh, this was always just fun and silly, but I didn't realize like this was actually disrespectful behavior. So as a mom, like God will give you the eyes to see if you allow him to work through all of these mistakes as learning opportunities to instill wisdom into your children. And so instead of getting upset or mad about their mess ups, the biting and the hitting and the tantrums, like instead of being angry about it, that's really great for you to say, like, it's really mercy on your life as a mom to say, this is inside of your child and it's your responsibility to let him see that sin in his heart and help him overcome it, because he's going to need to learn how to overcome it. And this is like a whole nother course. Like, I wouldn't be able to cover all of this in this short time. But I'm going to keep going back to your question. So we touched on sharing control with a child, offering 2 choices, and if they don't choose something within 10 seconds, you choose for them. And whatever choice you offer must not be a problem for anybody in the universe, including you. So I'm not going to offer my kid, you know, do you want broccoli or cookies with your dinner? Because obviously he's going to choose cookies, and then I'm going to be like, actually, no, I'm not going to give you that option. Like, you want to give them anything you're okay with. So options like, do you want blue cup, pink cup? Do you want a shower or a bath? Do you want to play by yourself or play with mommy? You know, whatever options, I'm okay with either one. Anyways, okay, and then I don't want to, well, we could go on if you guys want, but I don't want to lose you guys. We talked about frustration and anger feeding misbehavior, that when we as moms react in anger, it only creates more anger and more frustration and misbehavior. But when you take your consequences with empathy, you allow your child to learn. And that's the difference when you discipline your children, is that one comes out with learning and with wisdom when you do it with empathy and like enforceably. And the other one, when you just do it out of anger and repeating, it just comes out with more anger and misbehavior. So Jazzy, going back to you, so like with your tantrums, for example, you know, I'm not there to like watch you. If you want, like, I'm happy if you want to record yourself. I don't know if you want to, but if you ever want to do that, record yourself, like the interaction, I'm happy to go through and say, this is where you could have like came on for, or this is what you could have said next time. But right now, just knowing what you've shared without being there, if he is biting, hitting, anything, the rule of thumb is that you either remove the child or you remove the offending object. So for example, if the child is throwing himself on the floor, I say, uh-oh, and I pick up the child. Now I'm taking action. Pick up the child gently, with love. Take him to his room, put him in his crib. If he's young, if he's older, he can just go to his room. And then I say, do you want the door open or closed? You know, at this time, they're pitching a fit. Ah! Okay, no worries, I'll choose for you. Close the door. Come out when you're sweet. And that's it. That's all I say. I don't like go back and like, hey, don't scream, don't tantrum. Hey, I don't want you doing that. And then whenever the child comes out, I just, yay, I'm so glad you're back. And then I carry on as normal. Like nothing happened, we're good. Because you want them to start learning, like mom is serious and she means what she says. Now let's take another scenario. He's tantruming. For you to say the uh-oh song has to be followed up with an action. So I'm not going to say, uh-oh, there's a tantrum. Hey, buddy. Uh-oh, don't do that tantrum. Hey, I said not, you know, like you hear the difference? Like one of them is constant repetitiveness and the other one is, uh-oh, pick him up, move him to a different location. And I carry on, I'm good. I'm not affected. Now going to the hitting and slapping, and then I'll let you, Jazzy, come back with questions or correct me in any way. He's hitting, slapping, again, you would either remove the offending child or the offending object. So if he's hitting, slapping, uh-oh, pick him up, take him to his room. That's it. I don't have to say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, because he's not hearing, he's just doing whatever he wants to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm starting to...
Yeah. And we, like, so this is only to be done if the child's needs are met. So if he's hungry, if he's tired, if he hasn't had much time with you, he just came home from, you know, school or the grocery store, that's not quite the time, because you want to make sure his needs are met. This is more so like what we talked about. Like, he's just throwing a fit just because he's trying to figure out his sense of personhood. And you, by giving him those clear boundaries of like, hey, you're welcome to be with me as long as you want, as long as you're fun and sweet. Then they start knowing, wow, like my behavior affects other people and what I do matters. Now this, you know, this doesn't stop with mama. You know, like he's eventually going to go to school and go to work and get a job, and he can't just come to work and throw a fit without coworkers being like, I don't want to be around him, and then leaving him out. You know, like you want him to be able to be like self-controlled with the ability to self-manage and say, you know what, I'm not having a good day, I'm going to go have a good day now. Like you're teaching him to be like a healthy man, not just like a healthy toddler. So for me, like even the terrible twos, I don't say that. I think a lot of like our culture will label, like everybody's on the spectrum, everybody's this, everybody's that, teens are the worst, this, you know. So I personally don't label anything like that because for me, I've loved the 2-year-old phase. I thought they were so much fun. But they're not going to be fun when the behavior is constantly being tolerated. And then the atmosphere of the home is just one of tension because the child is ruling the home. You know what I mean? So like steps for the uh-oh song to just, I don't think, there was a couple of you girls that weren't here last week. So the uh-oh song really works perfectly for like kids like 0 to 6. Like it's not really like a teenage thing. So this is more like littles. So there's 6 steps for them. One of them, instead of making threats or giving warnings, you just say, uh-oh, and you take action. 2, gently lead or carry the child to their room. Like Jazzy with you, you know, your kid's small, you probably can pick him up and take him. But like my kid, you know, he's 4 going on, like he looks like an 8-year-old. I can't quite carry him the same way, especially when I was pregnant. So I just hold his hand and I offer, do you want me to walk you to your room or do you want to walk yourself? And I just maintain that connection with him as we go. 3, giving your child a chance about the door, or I'm sorry, a choice about the door. You want your door open or shut? And then 4, say feel free to come out when you're acting sweet. And then they will know, like they will pitch a fit so hard in their room while you're out there having a blast. And they're gonna be like, you know what, this is not fun. And they're gonna come out and they're gonna be like, you know, their natural reservation is gonna be like, oh, like mom's gonna lecture me, I'm in trouble. So you wanna meet them like when they come out of their room, like, hey buddy, I'm so happy you're here. You want some coffee? I mean, you want some tea while mommy drinks coffee? You know, like you make it really fun. And the last step is having fun with your kids when they're behaving. So don't lecture, don't remind when your child is ready to come out. You know, don't stand by their door and make yourself suffer hearing to their screams. None of that. Like they will, like now my child, if he goes to his room, I mean, he comes out in like 0.5 seconds with a smile. And I'm like, are you good? Did you have enough time? And he's like, yeah, I'm happy. I'm ready to play. I'm like, cool, awesome. You're welcome to stay out here as long as you're being sweet. You want to say?
The time is getting shorter for me too.
Oh my goodness.
But it's working.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. I want to hear about it. I want to hear all about yours. And the whole point with like love and logic, what we touched on, was you want to train your children with inward conviction, not just outward law. So like your kids need to come to a place where they're able to self-govern and like, you know what, I'm not having a good attitude. I'm not gonna have a good day if I keep up with this bad attitude. Like that's them self-governing. But outward law is like, oh, mom's around, I better not be grumpy because she's gonna be mad at me. Like you don't want them to be because you know, right now it's mom, but then what happens then? They start getting into abusive relationships or toxic relationships because they're always controlled from the outside. Instead of being able to be strong and say, no, I don't like how I'm behaving, I'm gonna change, you know? Anyway, so I can go on and on. I wanna kind of open it up for you guys a little bit more. Yeah, but you know, like with my 14-month-old, we did the uh-oh song with him. I mean, he was arching his back, screeching, like crazy screeching, and we just kept doing it. He'd sit in his crib, you know, crying, and I felt like, oh, my heart is shattering, because it's hard to hear them, you know? It's not easy. It's like if any of you have sleep trained, like those couple nights are so hard, but then they sleep beautifully and all your friends are suffering while you're like, I sleep 12 hours every night. So like there is a hard you have to choose, and the hard right now is up front, the momentary hard, so that you can have those lasting benefits. So now my 14-month-old, I put him in his crib and he just giggles and I'm like, you're supposed to be crying, like upset that I put you in here. And he like just crawls away and giggles and is so silly. And so I immediately pick him back up and we continue having fun. You know, I don't remind, I don't repeat. Now this is for the uh-oh song, right? There are times, like as a mom, where I will address my child's behavior, but not in that moment. I don't, you know, when they're already flared up and frustrated, I'm not like, hey buddy, you gotta control that anger. Like I don't do that because it's not appropriate. But you know, when I'm putting him down for bed, I'll remind him and reaffirm my love to him. Like, hey buddy, this morning you were acting very disrespectful towards mommy. What was going on? Are you okay? Are me and you disconnected? Obviously those are big words and you know, he's like, I'm good, you know. But it's more so like for me as a mom, teaching him language. Like, I love you whether you behave or misbehave. But what's more important is my connection to you. Like I want to be close with you And when you misbehave, it makes us not close together. But I still love you. I want you back to me. And those are, you know, conversations I reserve for another time, not necessarily in the moment of the uh-oh tantrum. So anyways, I hope that helps a little bit. So with you, Jazzy, I would really encourage you, you know, we talked about enforceable statements. You can, like, if you say, hey, stop doing that, stop biting, you cannot go physically hold his mouth and make him stop biting. Like, I mean, you could, but it would violate his body, you know, like, so like, or you can't say like, hey, stop crying, stop screaming, stop whatever, because you can't do anything about it if they don't. You actually lose respect and authority from them. But what you can do is, what can I say that I can follow up on? So like, if my child is screaming, I won't say stop screaming. I'll say, I'll listen to you when your voice is calm. Or I'll listen to you when your voice sounds like mine. Or I will pick you up as soon as you stop screaming. Whatever it is, that what am I able to do that I actually can control, you know? Anyway, so I don't, yeah.
I'll pick you up when you become sweet, like you say.
Yeah.
Always using that phrase, when you become sweet, or when you become yourself again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you'll notice, like, when you start having that kind of, like, enforceable language, you're not playing that power struggle game, because kids want to test their boundary. It's not bad. Like, it's developmentally appropriate for them to be like, am I boss or is my mom and dad boss? Yeah. Like, it's okay that they're challenging, but what you need to show them is, I am your authority, and authority is good. Like, there will never be a place where we're not under authority. Like right now it's mom and dad, but then it's your boss, and then it's the government and president and God. I mean, you're never under authority, you know? Anyways, okay, so that's a lot of information, especially if you have not been here in the past week or so. So I'm gonna open up the floor and then we'll just go through whatever y'all want. But I wanna hear your praise report, girly. With you, your time's getting shorter. I wanna hear about that.
Yes. So now, because my kids react with screaming and yelling, because that's what they're used to reacting, getting their ways. So now we're getting the time a little bit more shorter. So when you want to react with a screaming and yelling, we're not going to listen to you. And you think she gets louder because she wants to be heard. She wants to be seen. And I look at her, I'm listening. I hear you, but you're not talking the language. I can speak to you, understand you. And I sent her to her room, and all the stuff's going to that room we get. But now it's just getting to the point that she's realizing, if I make this action, if I do this and I scream and yell because I don't get my way, I'm going to go to my room, and I don't want to go to my room. So now I'm going to calm myself down, and then I'm going to use my calming voice to communicate. I'm going to communicate versus making sounds. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have words versus making sounds. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you could even take it a step further with, you know, when his stuff dies, if that's his personal tablet, like, who's in charge of this tablet? I am. Okay, well, mommy's not going to charge your tablet for you. You're responsible for keeping it charged, you know? And right. Keeping them in that place. Yeah, that's so exciting. How fun is that? I love that. Yeah, good job, mama. That's hard. I mean, it's hard doing it at first because it feels so unnatural, you know? But like for example, here's a little story. Last night, we had planned a family date night, because we do that like once a month or so. We were going to watch Peter Rabbit. We like went to Sprouts. We got, you know, desserts, treats. We got amazing dinner. We come home and my, you know, 4-year-old is like starting to act out, you know. Anyways, gets really mouthy, starts acting out. And I'm like, I have to take away the movie. But like, I actually wanted the movie. I got my snacks, you know. But I knew like this moment is more important to teach my child the importance of wisdom than for me to have like my entertainment, you know. So I ended up being like, you know, oh, like my empathy, buddy, that's so sad. Like I've asked you to be respectful to mommy, and you continue to not. And disrespectful boys don't get to watch movies. And so I said, you know, so he was bummed, but he was just like, okay. Like there was no fit, there was no, but mommy, I'll change. You know, no arguing. Right. I mean, he just knows. Like I said, hey, we're done with the movie, and he just, okay, went outside, you know, worked on my garden with me. And it went to bed, you know, and it was no big deal. And then my husband was like, you can try again tomorrow, buddy. And so he woke up this morning and, can we watch Peter Rabbit tonight? As long as you're respectful, sure, buddy. So it's like, as of right now, we're doing good. As of right now, we still have it, you know. But like when it starts becoming their normal, you'll notice there's a lot less pushback and a lot less power struggle. And especially if your kids are older, the might not necessarily work for them, because it's like, you know, it can kind of make them feel like, I'm not a kid, I don't want that, you know. You can always use your energy drain. Like, man, mommy is so drained by the way that you're treating me disrespectfully or speaking this way. How are you going to restore my energy? And you start teaching them, like, how you act affects other people. Like, when you're nasty to people, it makes them feel really, like, depleted and you know, tired, like, emotionally drained. And so you get to teach them as a mom, you know.
We got to go to the hospital because you don't cause damage of these kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the right way to get her to realize, to see, and she's 12.
Yeah. You know, I would give you a couple ideas, and you can, you know your kids best. You're going to be the best mom for them. I'll give you a couple ideas. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, and I would say there's a lot of other questions I would ask, like, are you spending one-on-one time with her? Is this her way of, like, trying to get attention? Does she feel very disconnected, where she's like, oh, mom only notices me when I'm acting out? Is this her way of saying she's hurt? Maybe she's being bullied. Maybe, and I'm not saying she is. I'm just saying these are all maybes.
You're right. No, you're absolutely right. So right now we're in a process. Close my door, please.
Yeah, and I really applaud you for even being aware. You know, I think a lot of this time gets missed for girls this age who have issues or challenges or, you know, pain like that she's facing that's very, very extreme and deep. So I'm very proud of you for being able to say, okay, this is where she is and this is how she's acting out. And I would encourage you in the meantime, like, you know, I know you said counseling. I would encourage you in the meantime, like, have so much fun with her when she's behaving. And don't pizzazz the behavior only when she's misbehaving. Like, because she'll notice, like, oh, mom only notices me when I'm acting out. But it's still attention. Like, it still is a form of love in her heart, even though it's wrong. Like, it's not quite what she needs. So I'd encourage you, like, I don't know. I know you said you're a single mom. You have, I think you said 5 kids. I know you probably are a lot busier than many. But find ways where you can just connect with her. Like, get all the kids down at 8 and then say, hey, you want to have mommy time with me and you tonight until, you know, 9 or 10.
And that's the thing that we... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. It's just such a crossroad where she's able to say, man, I can choose, like, a good path or I can choose not. And, like, for you to be able... Like, I would encourage you to pray for her, fast for her, whatever you need to do, and maintain that connection with her, even if you disagree with her, what she's doing. Like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Keep, like, reaffirming your love for her.
Right.
But what she needs is, like, you not to let her go. You know, like, so, like, with the aggression, I would say that's more so, like, not that I'm discounting it in any way because you want that to be addressed. But I would say if you're giving her more attention for that, then, like, maybe this week, every time you correct her for her aggression, find 5 ways of, like, positively encouraging her in something else. And I don't know if you're giving her choices. Another thing, too, is giving her choices where she feels like she can share control. So giving her, I mean, as a 12-year-old, you know, hey, do you want to stay home tonight or do you want to come with me to the store? Hey, do you want to wake up early and go for a walk or do you want, you know, whatever it is. Do you want to choose dinner tonight? You want me to choose? Hey, do you want takeout when the kids go down or do you want me to cook us? Like, giving her choices where she feels like, wow, I'm a powerful person. I have control over things. So the Love and Logic, if you like how this, like, Love and Logic parenting is, there is a Love and Logic for teens. And I would think that would be a lot more beneficial because it's going to address a lot of these, like, hormones, attitudes, entitlements, all these things that a child naturally will as a little.
Right.
Yeah, but I am so proud of you, though, for just taking initiative, even doing these things with her. It'll click, you know, like, it will click. I mean, we've all been teenagers once, and if you ask their parents, we're probably all pretty horrible at one point or another.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what I can do with that because I'm like, it's always mommy this, mommy that, mommy this, mommy that. I'm like, I'm mommy out. What can I do?
Yeah. Yeah, with these kind of bonds, when they are very secure and attached with, like, one person, like you know, your older sister or older sibling.
My older daughter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, older daughter. Like, I would encourage you more so to just protect that bond and just keep that bond strong. And when they find themselves being more, like, confident in that bond and secure in that relationship, they will naturally choose to be healthy with the other siblings as well. Even if they're not necessarily, like, best friends with the others, you know. Like, just, you can still teach them to be respectful even if they don't have the strongest bond. And what I do, too, if I see, like, one sibling is struggling with another, I make sure to talk up that sibling or that parent. So, like, if my husband's working, I don't I make sure to say, man, I miss Daddy so much. He works so hard for our family. I'm so thankful he provides for us. And it takes away that resentment of Dad's gone. He's a firefighter. He doesn't come here at nights. I take away that resentment piece. And I say, I'm so glad it's just me and you tonight, buddy. Do you want to sleep on Mommy's bed? We can have a slumber party. And we just keep it like everything's very lighthearted. Especially if I see that there's a struggle, Or his baby brother, steals all his stuff, steals everything. I make sure to say, when he does share, baby brother is so kind. Look how he's sharing his toy. I'm so thankful we have a baby brother. We're so blessed to have a family. A lot of kids don't have and I just make it really like giving him, because they're gonna, even if they don't act like it, they are taking on the thoughts that you're thinking. So like start thinking out loud positively, like if I don't want to clean the kitchen, I'll say, oh, it's so hard for Mommy to clean the kitchen. I don't have any energy, but I'm still gonna do it, and I'm so thankful we have a kitchen because I have been given a kitchen to steward well, And of course, sometimes it sounds like kind of dramatic, like that's a lot, but you'll find themselves translating that to when they clean their room. Oh, I don't want to clean my room, and then they remember, but I'm gonna clean my room because I'm so thankful I have a room, and it starts like you start modeling what you want them to see or what you want them to behave. So I would just encourage you in that, like, talk up those siblings and the parents and just keep modeling, I'm so glad we have each other. I'm so glad we get to be friends as a family. I'm so glad, whatever. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The smiles and the excitement and the enjoyment that I see.
Yeah, another thing, especially with you, with older kids, if your older kid is like wanting to be the parent, like, you see that older sibling, like, don't do this, do that, go there, stop eating that, stop making noises. They start being the correcting person. Feel free to throw that at them. Hey, since you want to be the mommy, why don't you be the mommy for the rest of the hour or the day, whatever. And you'll find out real quick, like, I don't want to be a mom, I want to be a kid.
I did that.
You did? How'd that work for you?
She gave it up quickly.
Yep. Yeah, and and you want to give them all the hard mom things. Okay, so what's for dinner? Hey, got lots of laundry we're falling behind in. What are you gonna do? And then they want to play. Hey, no, mommies don't get to just sit and play until all our work is done, or whatever. I mean, it's really fun. So now, when my son starts correcting my little son, I'll be like, hey, buddy, you want to be the mommy or do you want to be the big brother? And he immediately sits down and he's like, I want to be a big brother. I don't want to be a parent.
Right.
So it's so fun. Yeah. You can have, that's why I said parenting can be such a joy, because I think we make it more miserable for ourselves, because we take it so personal. Like if our child makes a mistake, it's like, I'm the failure. But really it's like, they will make mistakes and these are all learning opportunities. How can I instill wisdom into them, and how can I grow as a better person in the midst,
While we talk about this, it's funny because I had put some clothes on like I was going to work, and I had grabbed my...
Yeah, so my first thought when it comes to discipline, like things like that, I will say every problem must have an owner. So her coloring on the table and the floor, as of right now, that problem, she needs to own it. So I would say something along the lines of, oh man, you colored on the table, coloring needs to be on paper. What are you going to do about it? And so you hand that problem right back to her instead of being like, go grab the brag, go do this, go do that. Because now she's just like in punishment mode, just like, oh, okay, and she's not learning like for herself. So I would encourage you, if you've already had that conversation, or if not, I would just say, what are you going to do about it? Of course, she's 3, so she's going to be like, I don't know. And then you can offer back, do you want to hear some ideas of how other kids do it? Because they feel connected when there's other kids who also have the same mistakes. They're not alone, and they're like camaraderie. So she's going to say, yeah. And you can say whatever your choices are. Well, other kids take a wet rag and they wipe it down. How's that going to work for you? I don't really want to clean. Well, other kids have their mommy clean it for them, and then they can do a chore for their mommy, and we can swap. How's that going to work for you? And you ask those questions that you're okay with, and she'll eventually, and then, after you give her 2 or 3 options, you can say, which one are you going to choose? So you keep handing her back the problem and teach her that concept of thinking. So she's probably going to go the easiest route. I'll just get a rag and clean it. And then you make sure she just stays there until it's as good as it can be kid-wise. Because it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be mom level of cleanliness. but you want her to kind of feel that like suffering of like being on the floor and mopping it up and wiping it down. And I would say that that would be the first thing to start there. Now, obviously some of that might not come up. So if you want to go further, you can do whatever you want with that. You can say, you know, do you want to replace this table and have her earn chores around the house money? Or have her live with the consequence of it just being painted, you know, colored? Or 3, toss it if you don't like. For me, that would be like, I wouldn't like that. So I would just say, I don't like things that are messed up and colored in my home, so I'm going to have to donate this or throw it in the trash or something like that. You know, that's me personally. And have her know like there are consequences to things that we do. So anyways, I would start there as a kind of as a little start. Have her, you know, what are you going to do about it? And have her start like thinking that way.
Okay. I like that. What are you going to do about it? Oh, I think that, okay, I go like...
Yeah, and you want to keep the problem hers. So when you say things like, what are we going to do? She's now saying, oh, mommy, you know, you figure it out. Like, it's not her problem. So I would say, you know, hey, what are you... like, I would say, first, empathy. Oh, man, that's so sad. Your table's all colored. What are you going to do about it? You know, and then instead of offering her, like, you can grab this, you can do that... You can ask her, do you want some choices? Or do you want to hear what other kids do? Or do you want to hear some ideas of how you can clean it? Because you want them in a thinking brain. Because when you start offering the rag and cleaning it up, they start tuning you out because it's chores and punishment, you know? So I would say, you know, what are you going to do about it? I don't know, Mommy. Do you want to hear some ideas of how you can clean it up? Sure, Mommy. And then you offer, well, you can get a rag and then stop there. How's that going to work for you? And so you keep letting her think, oh, I can get a rag and then clean it. And then she might be satisfied with that and you might not have to give her any other options. That's usually my kid is usually like the first one's good. Like, sure, I'll get the rag and clean it. But if she doesn't want to clean, you know, 2, you offer, well, Mommy can clean it for you, but Mommy doesn't work for free for things that are, you know, extras. So do you want Mommy to clean it for you and you can pay me back with other chores? And you make sure to give her hard chores like baseboards, toilet. So thank you all the mamas here who have opened up and have shared with me. I really have not taken it lightly, and I've been praying for you ladies throughout the week as the Lord has reminded me. And I'm just very, very honored to be here in your mothering journey. So I'm going to just open up our time today with questions.
Yeah, this week she has definitely did 360.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I when we got off our chat last week, I told my husband about you and your family, and you know, I asked him the question you asked me, like how would you like go about with a 12-year-old who's, you know, going through this pain? And I kept it generic. I didn't, you know, share too many personal things, but
Right.
yeah, the main thing that we just kind of chatted about was like connection. Like sometimes we can feel like we give people our time, but it's distracted. Like we're driving and we're thinking and we're musing on other things, and then, you know, it's like if you're ever like on a date and then the person's elsewhere in their mind and they're, I'm with you, you're like, yeah, you're not, not there, you know.
I swear that's the key right there, because she would talk to me.
You know, I saw this online. I don't know, you might already be doing this, but I saw a mom and daughter sharing a journal, and it's like all the things that the daughter doesn't want to tell her mom because she's, you know, embarrassed, insecure, whatever. But it's like the safe journal. Like you don't have to talk to me, but you can write it down and then you respond. Or you just leave little messages in the journal. Like, I've noticed a shift. I'm so proud of you. Is there anything I can do differently? And then they, on their own time, not like in the emotion, they can be like, I'm really hurt by you, what you said. That really bothered me. And then, you know, you kind of have this like interaction. I don't know if you might already do that, but I thought that was so sweet.
No, I don't. I can definitely, I do that verbally, but I don't do it writing down.
Yeah.
So okay, I could try that.
I mean, especially as a teenager, you know, you're going through so much. Sometimes when someone asks you like how you're doing, you don't have language to be like, I'm really hurting. But like sometimes when you're like in your own like moment of journaling or reflecting, it's a lot easier to kind of get it out, like get messy on a paper and not have to feel like, okay, mom's time is being rushed or whatever, you know. But I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, that connection will be so powerful for you, for you both together. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, we've been, this week, frustration feeds misbehavior. That's a quote we'll say often. And we'll notice when we're disconnected as a family, we're like, wait a second, we have not been connecting and we've been more frustrated. Like they're like hand in hand, you know. So that's awesome. You've been able to be more mindful. Way to go.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me those tips, though, because that kind of jogged my memory. Like, I think I'm doing this, but I'm not being mindful as when I'm doing this. So, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I think he's been up there for some hours now, and I think he put up like 2 items, but hey,
he's working on it. Yeah, he'll work it out.
And that's his clothes. That's his problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's
little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I found like the little things can be the most helpful, you know? Like just that thing of like, I'm responsible for me, you're responsible for you. Like it's so huge, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, these past 2 weeks have been like really tough with my 4-year-old. Like we're like, okay, we're touching on like little parenting things here and there. We've had just like such a challenging week of him like questioning authority and boundaries, just normal development stuff. And we've had to like really sit down and go through like, this is what authority is. This is the importance of it. Like, this is how important God says it is, But I've noticed like whenever I find these challenges in my like just little holes, like in my family, like in my marriage or little pockets of my kids or whatever, I notice like sometimes that God wants to do something in my heart more times than not. And it's not even so much about my marriage or about my kids as much as it is like what God wants to do in me, Because I think especially as women, like we can see what's going on and we're, aware a lot more than a lot of other like people in our home. But yeah, I've been really just coming to this place of like, Lord, like my son is struggling in this place of authority, but where am I lacking in my authority? Like where am I lacking in being submitted? Like, am I not being submitted to my husband? Am I not being submitted to government? Whatever. Because it's the little subtle things that like, get kind of tucked away and become like little sins or little compromises. And then our kids pick up whatever sin we don't deal with, our kids will pick it up. Yeah, or even like with marriage, like before I would say like, I want my husband to change or I want him to be more this or more that. But now I'm just like, you know what? Where can I grow like in the area of serving him? Like the things that I don't like in him, Okay, he's not as helpful. Lord, how can I just be a servant? Like how can I lay down my life and serve him? And I'm not so much worried about like nitpicking him or my kids as much as I am like me, And sometimes that could be a fine line because sometimes as women we can go so extreme of like shame and don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not like pick yourself apart because you all are doing amazing, wonderful, jobs and it's very difficult, the day in and day out labor of mothering. But I'm more so talking about just like the shift blame, like constantly coming back to the Lord of like, where am I needing growth? Emotionally, physically, mentally, where do I need to grow? And so, yeah, this week with my son, because there's been so much disconnect, like just all day, it's been like really exhausting. But then it like kind of hit me last night, like, like where am I not showing him like just the joy of the Lord? And I'm being so like strict, Because sometimes we can get carried away with like rules and this has to be this and this has to be that and you've got to do this. And so anyways, I've been just pulling back a little bit like, man, the joy of the Lord is our strength. And, sorry, my dog. And just like letting him know like there is authority and there's structure, but there's also a place where there's just freedom in being a kid and there's like room for both, Anyways, I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about like, more so what I wanted to touch on was just like, everything that we come up in life, I want the mindset, because, we talked about the little things that shift our mindset. I really would love to, like, encourage you, like, have that mindset of, like, okay, God, speak to me. Like, whatever it is that you want to deal with, like, do it in me. And that's even, like, if you guys remember the story with Jesus, when the angel visited Mary and said that you're going to have a son. And, of course, she's a virgin, so she, her response is, like, I don't know a man, how am I going to have a son? But her response when the angel came and spoke to her, like, here I am, Lord, basically that context, basically it means whatever you say, Lord, yes. Like that's really like the shift of that language, like in the original writings, So like when we come before the Lord, like having that heart posture of like, whatever you want to do, God, yes. Like however you want to change me, yes, My marriage, like Jazzy, you know, we talked a lot about marriage. Like, I've been there. I know the pain, you know, like years of just turmoil. I totally feel that pain, have felt that pain so long. But I had to really come to a place of like, God, if you can't change my marriage, will you at least change me? Like, will you heal me, you know? Because there's still a pain that comes from not being married, you know, as I'm sure other mamas here, like, there's a pain in marriage and there's a pain not in marriage. But the pain isn't because of the man. Like, it's because of what's in our heart, you know, or what we've allowed in or not allowed in. Anyway, so I really want that heart posture to encourage all of you ladies. Like, really, you know, as you have sickness in your home or babies disobeying or acting out or whatever, like, God, change me. Change me in how I respond with my anger. Change me in how I react, how I get irritated, how I get offended, you know, all these things that we all feel, you know, but they have to be put to death in us, because if you call yourself a Christian, the life of Christ is dying. A lot of it is we die, you know, so that we can have more of him. Like, there is that exchange.
So can I piggyback off what you just said?